Okay, I'm still Bo, still Matic. It's just such an incredible opportunity. I wish we had about a week to spend together because there's so much science to really doing good service work in NA, and H9, PI, and all the other fields that have been sort of, not fertilized that much lately. But I had an advantage or two that God planted in my life from an early age in my birth to present. And one of those things was when I got clean, there were various people supporting early NA in Atlanta. And one of those people is our, guest speaker tonight. And in particular, imagine there's only about 30 or 40, maybe 50, addicts in Narcotics Anonymous in Atlanta back in, let's say, like 78, 79. But I used to hang out and talk to this guy, and eventually became a sponsor. Bob Barrett died. And I looked around, talked to Vito about it and some others, and he was just a natural choice because he's got longer clean time than I do. But also, I remember we would sit out in the car after the meeting at Beechwood Hospital. We would dream about having so many addicts and so many meetings that there was like practically a meeting on every street corner. And we would have a book someday. This was early. This was 77, 78, maybe earlier. And we dreamed, just felt free, made ourselves free. You can do that. Are you free? Yeah. It feels good. Yeah. You have no idea how good it feels. But we was just we were very supportive and very kind of fearless. And NA was just kind of a growing dream maybe back there. Most of our literature was in the spoken tradition. And so one of the guys that happened to encourage me in the early days, and I was brave, but I needed encouragement. And I wanted also somebody with more clean time because, if you want to help, then you're willing to be careful. Because what we do is sort of technical and sensitive, and if you don't do it right, if you don't surrender and accept guidance, then you're just a fool. So, but we all have to be fools to qualify for NA, right? So, with that, I gave you the speaker tonight, my sponsor, Neil B. From Greenville.
My name's Neil. I'm addict. And, I know you don't recognize me out of makeup. Anyhow, this is what a trip this has been. I mean, this is I didn't think I was going to be here when I first heard about it, and I thought I had a commitment. And then I thought maybe I could make it, and then last week I got stuck out of town some, and things got crazy. Can you hear me? You said okay. But anyhow, yeah. But still didn't think I was going to make it, and of course I knew Vito was going to be here, and Vito's my sponsor, and I wanted to hear him, and of course Bo and so many others that I knew were going to be here. And so this morning I made this decision. Well, I'm going to run down there, take off and see what happens, and maybe even come home tonight. Anyhow, decided I was going to stay overnight and got a room. And when I got a room, I charged my phone. And when I charged my phone, I had a message, and the message was, "Can you speak?" And I said, well, but the thing is, and this is what I love, and I believe it from the bottom of my heart about the God of my understanding and how this thing works, because they were sharing about it earlier. I came here when Scott was doing the thing with the PBS or whatever, but there talking, and I remember that, and Vito sharing and talking about his experience, and Bo talking about his, but they all seem to have that common theme about learning how to trust this process, and learning how to trust that intuition that develops as a result of working these 12 steps and having some kind of spiritual awakening. I was in a meeting one time, and that was the topic, what is a spiritual awakening? And everybody, myself included, got into some real heavy duty philosophical, levitation and all that kind of stuff, and then somebody that was new says, one guy said, well, I think it's just that you think everything's going to be all right. And I thought about that for a minute, and I said, that's probably as powerful of a definition of what I understand to be a spiritual awakening. And that fear that managed my life, that ego of mine, it not tells me I'm greater or better than you, but tells me I'm worse than you. And if you really knew me, you wouldn't like me. I've been clean 47 years. 46. You figured out I've been clean since 71. So anyhow, it's like, when people talked about that ego, I thought they were talking about that thing that makes, we think we're better than everybody or something. And but what I've learned is that other side of that coin you're talking about. And that's, I'm not as good as you. I'm worse than you. If you really knew me, you wouldn't like me. And I've been clean a while, but that little thing is still in there sometimes. But oh God, Danny T was supposed to speak, and I got, what am I going to do? And when I was sitting over there, I tried to just get centered a minute and take a deep breath and just remember what was happening in this room, because I really do agree with what this is a special event. There's something about the vibe in this meeting that's just real powerful, and I'm really grateful. For everybody that's there. And that's the beauty about a fellowship like this. It doesn't matter if you've been clean forever. If you've been clean one day, that's the energy that comes in. I believe when they say about the newcomer, the therapeutic value of one addict helping another without parallel. I believe when they say the newcomer is the lifeblood in this program. The lifeblood, not because, we get a chance to save them, quote unquote. It's a right there, the new blood, because it keeps me in perspective. It reminds me of what it was like. And one of the reasons there was a meeting at my home group, in Greenville tonight. I'm from Greenville, South Carolina. Anyhow, we had like everybody now, we're going through a couple of lawsuits that happened real quick. One was a guy that had been coming around for 20 years, put together 3 or 4 years. Was just a beautiful individual, had a real gift for expressing himself and just making him feel good when he got around him. But every once in a while, hey, what happened with, Andy? He said, well, he's in jail, but Andy would come back. And Andy had that track record of he would relapse and then he'd come back. And he'd relapse and then he'd come back. But he didn't come back this time. And I remember it was kind of funny how it hit me in the gut. I said, I've had those people that he's just a chronic relapser, and I still expect to see them back. And because there are people that put that vibe off like they got it, and I don't mean in an egotistical way. It's just a good feeling. And it's like, what the fuck happened? That's what happens in my head. I said, what happened? What did I miss or something, And that was one. And then we had another 25-year-old guy that had a kidney stone, and he went and they gave him a shot for his kidney stone, and people were with him, and but they gave him a script, and he didn't tell anybody. We asked him, everybody, but he gave him a script. It took that one thing to unlock that thing about I don't have to. Maybe I can do it myself. Something, but that whatever this disease is that I still don't understand usually. He got some of that shit on the street today, and it killed him. And when I came into recovery, I started at a place, and I started in Alcoholics Anonymous. There was no Narcotics Anonymous, and I like to think of myself as what was kind of a new breed that was coming in AA at that time, and that was a Vietnam vet that had a drug problem too, but alcohol was a big part of that drug problem. And I'm a redneck junkie. I drank and popped pills, smoke anything, inhale anything, but I never stuck a needle in arm. And so that's why but I smoked it. but anyhow, but here I came, and I came the first time I came around. I'd been home shortly. I gotten in trouble. I got in a couple of DUIs, and I had a mother-in-law that had found Alcoholics Anonymous when I was overseas. And when I came home, she used to leave this stuff around the house, and she'd visit us and leave those 44 questions or something like that. And I remember, I would get out, and I think my wife was packing up to leave again, and I was in desperate need for her not to leave, and so I was willing to go to any lengths. I heard that too, and so I made the decision to go. But I remember before I went, I was sitting there with that questionnaire, and I was looking at it. And I think it was like 44 questions. It was a lot of questions, And I was looking at it, and yes, and then no. So I found the no. And then I realized that the no I said was really a lie. I said, it was like, have you ever been hospitalized as a result, and I said, no, I'm never, I'm thinking, something specific. Now, I've been hospitalized for being stabbed. I've been hospitalized for having a serious and acute convulsions, and when I tried to stop on my own, but I hadn't ever been hospitalized. So anyhow, that was where my head was. So anyhow, I went to the first meeting, and when I went in there, I looked around and compared my insides with everybody's outsides, and I looked for all the differences and none of the similarities, and kind of sat there with my, arms on my chest, but I was putting on a good performance for the in-laws, and so anyhow. But I look back on that, and I swear to God, I still can't deny that something happened at that meeting. I think that some kind of weird seed was planted with me, because there were people there. People know, like Billy B. People remember Billy, but Billy was my sponsor for a long time, and Billy was there, and Billy was one of those alcoholic pill addicts, and but anyhow, we struck up a thing, and just to make a long story short, I think if about 45 days into that first experience, which lasts 89 days before I left, I would have pricked my finger and signed in blood that I'd never pick up anything again. I was that confident about this new way of life, and it was feeling good, and things out here were getting good, and I understood my powerless over this substance, but unmanageable life, that's for other people, 89 days into it, I was sitting there, and I said, nobody smokes dope in here. They don't know anything about smoking dope. If I just smoked dope, I'd be fine. And so that seed got in there, and next thing you know, I did it. And I'll never forget when I took that first hit. It was like, you're fucking up. I mean, that's the first, it went through my head, those words, and I did. It was 9 months later that I came back. And when I came back, I think I surrendered to the fact that I needed help. This disease is crazy, and I think that was the attraction for me finally when I started really kind of listening to people share their experience and what they were feeling, what they felt about things. And I started getting involved with it. And I got a sponsor, and I got into the 12 steps, and got busy with it. And I became very active. And the place I came in was called the Biscayne down in Brookhaven. It used to be at 1224 Dresden Drive. But anyhow, the deal with that place was, and this is what I did. If somebody that was a member there, quote unquote, would agree, you could go in there and stay 3 days and throw up in a trash can, and if you're real sick, they knew a doctor that might come see you, or they could take you down to Grady. And that was about it. You drank a lot of orange juice and honey, and did that. And so that's what I did. But I didn't have anything else to do. And so I started hanging around there a lot. And at that time, that room had the entrance service for the metropolitan Atlanta area on the weekend from Friday to Sunday. So it was busy. And so I used to go hang around there, and I was kind of the wheelman on, 12-step calls. And I'll be forever grateful for that experience about carrying the message. And it's kind of one of those things that it's changed. You know, I know a lot of people that hadn't had that opportunity. It's kind of like a rare opportunity now that somebody calls that never heard of Narcotics Anonymous, and you get a chance to go and sit and share a message of hope. It's pretty simple, you know. I mean, what happened to me, what I was doing, how I wasn't picking up one day at a time, you know. I mean, just that was a simple message that they'd never heard before, you know. So it was kind of a different thing. This is maybe some of my personal stuff, but I think it was kind of one of those good news, bad news things, you know, for a while. The good news is when I was in, well, let me get even further down the line than that. When I was in, I had been in, and the people I was around, I got involved, and other addicts at that time were in that fellowship, were involved with that Icky Bar, whatever, with young peoples, and that's what our deal. But I had something happen. I'll just jump to that. But about maybe 3 years into my recovery, I was standing outside, and some people walked out, and they were going to the lake that weekend, Lake Lanier, and they invited me. And I said, well, what's going on? He said, well, you know, we get up there and we just smoke a little dope and, you know, do this thing. And I said, what? And it really blew my mind. This was people I didn't expect to hear that from. You know, this were people that had some, you know, recovery, I thought. And or at least as they understood it, I'll put it that way. And but I kind of, my brain was saying, well, you know, I've been there. But then my brain also started going, well, you know, now you're around these healthy, recovering people, and you know, some of these people have never smoked dope in their life, you know, and they've heard about this non-addictive drug. That cocaine also was non-addictive at that time too, and you know, but anyhow, this non-addictive drug, and you know, and some maybe they were having success with it. I don't know, but it scared me to death. And what happened to me was that some of the people, especially a girl named Pat, you know, well, Pat L at the time, but Pat worked at a treatment center. They told her, this guy named Joe H told her, you need to get an NA meeting here because we need it for addicts. And long story short, the meeting got started. And there was when I think about that meeting, this was early on. It had already started, and I attended that meeting that night. And I remember when they were reading out of the Little White Book, and they said that line, this is a program with complete abstinence from all drugs. And I remember something in me like exhaled. Because I got in one of those pissing matches with them about, you know, well, it doesn't say anything in this or it doesn't say anything in that, and that's not an issue in here, and that's an outside issue. And so I said, man, it might be an outside issue for you, but it'll kill me. And, you know, and I started thinking back to where I started my recovery and the lady there and the things she used to say, and I think she was from Scared Straight or something, you know, and I just, you know, she used to say things that but she used to say one thing, was the first thing that popped into my mind when that 25-year-old guy killed. And he says, if you're an addict and you use, it's like taking a revolver, like chipping a chamber out and putting a bullet in it and spinning it and sticking it in your mouth and pulling the trigger. That's what using like for an addict. It may not go off this time. It may not go off 20 times, but you do it long enough, it'll go off. And I remembered that when that kid died. It went off, you know. And so it just reminded me of, I already understood abstinence. I already understood that I was powerless over not a substance, but a disease called addiction. And when I went to NA and heard that first readings out of the, you know, Little White Book, I heard things I'd never heard before. And that's why when I say I give AA a lot of credit for getting me here. That's what got me here. That's where I learned about this test. But it's NA that kept me here. That's why I'm still here. That's when I found a group of people that kind of, it's where I got planted, if you will, you know? And it's been a journey ever since, man. Gosh, I don't even know where to begin, because it's like there's been so much shared. And I know anybody who's been around a little while knows what I'm talking about. You know, that my cup runneth over kind of thing, you know. there's so much I wish I could share about, but I'll just share with me what happened with me, or some of the things that have happened to me, and why I still come back, and why I think it's the best thing that ever happened to me. Because there was the little times in my recovery that I'd look around and say, I've been going to damn meetings for a long time, and everybody says the same thing and all the stuff, and that, I just get bored with it, and so I start thinking, I got a raw deal here somewhere, but it doesn't take long, and next thing you know, I'm not thinking right, and then not thinking right, and I make a stupid decision or something. And that's why I've been married 4 times clean, So no, 3 times. No, and I say that the stupid decision being it's what I had to learn for me. And, my first marriage was a woman that I went to high school with, and it was in the days where she got pregnant. And so we got married, that was in like 1968. And I was 18 years old, and then 18, 19 years old, 20 years old, I was in Vietnam, and I came back. I had a son when I got back. And so me and her, we didn't do well at all, even though the mother-in-law introduced me to recovery. We ultimately split up. And so anyhow, here I am, going 100 miles an hour in recovery, and I met, God put this perfect woman in my life, and, because I was doing everything right, and anyhow, we ended up getting married, and because it was the right thing to do, and that didn't work out. And I shared this for a reason. That didn't work out. And so, again, I'm single and free and everything else. And I hook up with this other girl that I'd known in recovery, and we dated for a long time. And then we were together about 10 or 11 years, I guess, Cheryl. And she passed away not long ago. And then years later, I met my present wife, Sheila. Not Cheryl, Sheila, and but really, and it's been a 20 plus years or 25 plus years almost, and she's in recovery. She's in recovery, and she's got 34 years, I think. But that. It's kind of funny, and I just think it's a good example of what this program has been for me in many ways. And the lessons I've had to learn that applied to every area of my life, and that relationship for me, one of them. The first thing, the first marriage was what I had to do. I thought right thing to do at the time. We were about as prepared for that as if I met somebody here tonight. I mean, that's really nothing, no preparation, and so we didn't have a prayer. And when I look back at it. And of course, addiction played a part of it too, on both sides. That relationship was caused me a lot of pain for a long time. Her name would go on the top of my resentment list every time I wrote it, and then it would be transferred to the top of my amends list. Every time I did that, and so I would make, I would talk to my sponsor, and I would try to identify my role in it and my defects and why did I do, blah, blah, blah. And then I would do an effort with 6th and 7th step, and then I would do the amends thing, and next thing you know, it's time to, square this away. And so I'd call her, and 3 minutes in the conversation, one of the first ones, I ripped the wall phone off and kicked it across the room. It was... she didn't understand, and I share that with, I thought I was doing the right thing, and to have a golden opportunity to take her role, take her responsibility. She didn't, but so she didn't get what I was, but anyhow, it took me, I would say, over 15 years of my recovery to understand what that was about. I mean, it took that long, and that wasn't with lack of effort too. I really wanted to know what was happening, because my second marriage didn't work out, and that was kind of, again, it was like fellowship romance. It just didn't work out. Everybody stayed clean, thank God. And but that was that. But when I was in 1987, on 1/28/87, I mentioned that I had a son with her. And my son, Joseph Jr., Joseph Theobald Jr., was just like me in many ways. And he was an escape artist, early on, learning, with different things. But long story short, he got into the drug that scared me worse than anything. And I don't know, again, this is me. But when I was growing up and in high school and stuff, we got into huffing things, paint and white out and shit like that. And, I didn't never like it that much, but I had a friend that got into it. He was like a football player and a pretty good student and a good guy, but he liked to party. And when I went back to school at about 16 years old, he wasn't there, and I asked his brother where he was, and he said, well, something happened to him, and he's in a home, like he's wearing a diaper now and everything. Well, what I learned was that the damage he had done with those inhalants. And so inhalants scared me. It scared me so much I didn't quit for 3 years, but because it couldn't happen to me. But it kind of got my attention. Well, wouldn't you know, that's what my son got into. And so I was really worried about that. And he had problems. I mean, we went through all kinds of different stuff, but I got a phone call. He moved back here to Atlanta. They let him take his GED because he didn't do well in school. I mean, he didn't behave well in school. He tested great and all that. But so he was going to go to DeKalb College here, and I'm really excited. Well, I got a phone call, and this was January 28, 1987. And he had been huffing white out with somebody else, and it stopped his heart and died. And that experience proved, it's really ironic when I say this. It sounds crazy to some people, but it proved to be the most powerful spiritual experience that has happened in my recovery. Not because I wanted it to, but because I needed it. I had to. It wasn't, you needed me here. I really needed you more than ever. And how the fellowship responded, and phone calls I got from people I met one time, like it's something like this, and he said, man, I know how you feel, and I had something like that happen too. It was just amazing how it happened. But the thing about it was what happened to me in my relationship with God, because it wasn't that my relationship with God went out the window. I hate God, screw God. That wasn't that. That wasn't what happened. But it was like this big disappointment. Like, God, is God really this mean guy? Does things like this or something? And I had to really go through a process of reevaluating my relationship with my family. And some of the things I did helped me, and some of the things I did didn't help me. When I was saying. But on the other end of it, what happened was I had a relationship with a power greater than myself. That I love what a guy used to say, and he said that his thing was, God, it's not. I'll think of it in 30 minutes or here, but it's good. And I remember this. I know what it is. It was God. Like the photographic memory. I hadn't dropped the film to get developed. but it was God. Something about God. But God, thank you. It was God, thank you, not for who you are, but for what I am when I'm with you. And that hit me, because that's what I found is that one of the turning points, and I like little things that happened in my experience. I got real hung up on the things, thinking about God. I didn't like it. I'd never done it much. And, and when I came into recovery, and of course people were talking about God, I didn't really know how to respond to it sometimes, except I wasn't going to do that. But when I got to the second step, the first time I did, they were the sponsor I had in that time. I kept saying, the second step was saying to me, came to believe that a power greater than myself, no, came to believe in a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity. And he said, it doesn't say that. It says, came to believe that a power greater than myself. And he said, and it's like, oh, so I don't have to believe that. And then of course, I was one of the common garden variety about using the group as a power greater than myself, and realizing they knew more about how to live than I did. And that's where that went, and grew into a thing where I finally made that decision. I wanted to turn my will and my life over to the care of God as I understood God. And I was at a meeting, and a lady who gets more nervous than I get, but was reading how it works. And she read the third step. We made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as he understood me. And then she kept running. I said, oh God, she messed up, but she messed up, but I stopped them. And I said, maybe I can do that. I believe that there's a power greater than myself that understands me. And that opened the door. Again, you just cracked that door open to make progress to a fourth step and a fifth step and those kind of things. So, but back to the amends thing real quick. And so before that happened, though, I had kind of had an epiphany. I was sitting in a meeting on a Friday night, and a girl I have a great deal of respect for was really depressed and really in a bad place. And she started talking about some personal experience she went through. And I heard what she was saying. And after the meeting, I walked up to her and said, hey, did that really make you feel like you feel? And I said, well, shit, what I'm trying to say is the lady was talking about having an abortion. And it made her upset. And I'm not here for politics is not what I'm talking about. I'm just saying this is an experience, that somebody had. And I heard her, and then she said something about the guy just never gave a shit. And I was standing there, and I remember I felt something sink in my stomach. And I said, I gave a shit. But I went through that with my first wife. And we tried a little, get together after I got clean. It lasted one night, but she got pregnant as a result of it, and then made a decision. And this wasn't easy. At that time, you had to fly to New York and all kind of stuff. And but that affected me. It really did. I as a man, it affected, but I didn't think it was supposed to. It was supposed to affect her, not me. And so I didn't do anything with that for a long time. And but when I was talking to her at the meeting, and she said what she said, I suddenly had a little of that moment where, oh my God, maybe that's why the amends has never worked, because I never really understood what I was trying to make amends for, or what I wanted to change. And so I went a road trip to Atlanta, and picking up my son, and I said, I just want to talk to you for a minute. And I shared that. And that relationship healed. In the snap of a finger, it just healed. And why I say I'm so grateful for that, because if I hadn't heard that in that meeting, or been exposed to that thought and aware of the role it played, I wouldn't have made that amend. And when we encountered what we did with the loss of the son, we'd probably still be blaming each other for it, That healing helped us heal. And it helped us walk through that experience, as parents, losing the company. This program also healed that relationship with the second wife. I don't know what she is, but I know this. If I saw her on the street, I think I could look her straight in the eye, And my third, we had a great relationship for a long time, again, as a result of this program. And today, I'm happy in a relationship that I think I'm a true partner in, So that's my marriage counseling. No, I'm not trying to be American, but I'm just telling you that what I realized was that, we talk about an unmanageable life, and when I get up here, what I hope I can do is tell you how I stopped using, how I lost the desire to use, and how I found a new way to live. And so much of the talk this weekend has been about finding this new way to live, it starts with, it starts, a day one is a day clean. That's the truth for me. I believe that if I don't pick up, I got a chance. And if I don't pick up, I got a chance to learn what life has to teach me. And I've got a set of tools I can use to deal with what life deals me, And that's these set of spiritual principles written so simply that we can follow them in our daily life. The most important thing about them is that they work. I'm a believer in these principles. And I'm a believer in what they talk about in the 12 step about trying to practice these principles in all our affairs, because that's what I really started to find when I would get those little far off, oh man, I'm in this little can, of NA, and I'm missing everything. I could be bowling or something, but it's just, my brain get that. But what I found was if I take a deep breath and start trying to use these principles in my work or in my relationship, or, with my friends or whatever, it seems like suddenly that's gone, that feeling. I suddenly got this feeling of hope and feeling of enthusiasm. Suddenly, the world's a little brighter, My sponsor used to say most addicts don't realize this, but when they get here, it's like they got a can in your head, about this big. And it's been there for all your life. And it's like lifting it off. This process of the steps and awakening. I believe in spiritual experiences, and I believe that I've had a spiritual experience coming down here. It was just, when I look back, sitting there thinking about how did I end up being the speaker Saturday night, and some guy that I really was looking forward to hearing because I've heard some just wonderful things about him, and getting to spend time with my sponsor and his wife, and seeing Bo and so many guys I just cutting up with. How's that come to be? And another expression I like, and I think I'll remember this one, but it's not that I have that many more answers, it's just I don't have as many questions. And I think that's true, that I can accept life on life's terms better than I've ever had today. I don't have to know everything. That's all right. I don't have to understand it to accept it. It's like this guy ODing and dying. I spent a couple of nights staring at the ceiling, that old gnawing feeling about, man, could I have said something or done something different, But it's not my business. That's God's business. So now that's what I choose to believe. I think that every addict, I hope, has an opportunity to recover. And this program's worked for me. And I don't know. I think I'm done. But I love all of you. I really do. And it's a special, I just feel a real special feeling about having an opportunity to be a part of this. And Bo, I can't leave without saying something about Bo, though, because he has been, I like that arrowhead, pathfinder, whatever you want to call him. But that's the truth. And I remember the first time, maybe I'm not finished. I remember he was talking about sitting out in the, what it wasn't a car. He used to have an old postal delivery vehicle, and painted with psychedelic colors, everything. And yeah, but we used to sit in the back of it, after the meeting on Friday night and just talk and maybe go somewhere and eat, or something. But I remember we were just sitting there. I think there was lounge chairs or something in the back. But and there was this guy that used to sell beanbag furniture, that had been a super whiz with IBM at one time. But he, anyhow. But I remember that, talking about that. And I've always traveled in my work. And I said, man, wouldn't it be cool sometime where you can go somewhere and look Narcotics Anonymous and dial the number. Where's the meeting Tuesday night? Well, there's this one and this one and this one, like it was in the other fellowship. Because I was in that generation where you had to call, and you had to call that fellowship and say, "Where's an NA meeting?" And there's somebody say, "I don't know," and then somebody never fails. Like somebody would say, "Oh, wait a minute, I know," and they put me over there. And I remember too going to those meetings and trying to buttonhole people, and having the NA hospitality suite at their conventions. That was popular. Yeah, a lot of neat people there. But I just say that I think I remember when he started talking about a book, and I remember being in the Rising Sun one night at the marathon meeting they used to have on Saturday night. Bo was sitting over there, and the meeting was going on, and he was sitting there, and him and some other people were like looking at some writing, and he says, like, "Excuse me, has anybody been pronounced dead in this room?" About 3 hands went up. Okay, thanks. You know? And that was the truth. You know, one girl I was sitting next to, I knew she had been flatlined 2 times. And, you know, and she's still clean in North Alabama. You know, 40-something years. Man. So anyhow, I love you and thanks for this opportunity. Thank you.